Okay.
So welcome to our midweek conversations. Last week I had a conversation with Joan Booth from the leadership team, and today I'm welcoming Allan Wearmouth, who some of you will know from involvement in Emmanuel for a few years now. It's good to see you, Allan. Bit of a wet day, a bit colder today, but anyway, good to see you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Allan, for those people who at Emmanuel don't know who you are.
Morning, Cameron. Morning, everybody. This is always a difficult question to answer. It's a question of how much you want to know. Stop me if I'm going way beyond the bounds of what you want to know. Well, I'm 72 years young. I've been married to Sue for 50 years. I would say never a crossword, but that might be a bit of a lie. We celebrated our golden wedding anniversary in December with a nice little meal at a local Indian restaurant, just the two of us.
Congratulations.
Why pay for the rest of the family to go out with you? Sorry.
Sounds like a Yorkshireman to me.
Absolutely. I grew up in a small village in the Pennines near Skipton, where my dad was a farmer of a small mixed farm, and mum was the typical farmer's wife, doing jobs around the farm where needed and looking after the house and the children. I was the middle child of three. I had two sisters. We were brought up attending the local Methodist chapel. It was something we did. It seemed just something that everybody did at that time. We would go to the morning service every Sunday, and then in the afternoon it would be Sunday school. A group of us teenagers, when we got old enough, also helped to set up a youth club at the chapel, and we raised money and bought a table tennis table. We were really proud of it. It took a lot of raising, did the money, actually.
Do you know how much it cost?
It was about 80 quid.
Really?
In those days. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm talking early 60s here. And we did look after it, but I was a bit upset when I was told that it belonged to the church, not the youth club. Anything that was brought into the chapel belonged to the chapel, basically. Anyway, after all that, I went off to uni in 1966 at Leeds, reading mechanical engineering. Whilst at Leeds, met Sue. She was a nurse at the Leeds LGI, the General Infirmary. When I graduated, I went off to Birmingham to take up a graduate apprenticeship with Joseph Lucas, who were very big then in car parts, mainly for new cars with British Leyland. Sue and I married in December 1969, and we lived in a small 3-bedroom house in Handsworth in Birmingham. Not the one in Sheffield, in Birmingham. We've got 2 children, Adam and Diana. Adam's married. Diana, sadly, is divorced now. And we have 3 grandchildren. After a family crisis, my dad had a bad accident, and we felt that we should be up here helping out. So we moved back up to Yorkshire from Birmingham and eventually settled in Barnsley. You might ask why Barnsley. People often do. But it was a case of Sue's parents lived in Barnsley, and it seemed sensible to stay here for a while with them. I got a job, a manual job at Nailers up at Cawthorne. Worked there for a little while, worked nights. We had 6 nights working and 1 night off. That night was horrendous that we had off. Not because I had to spend it with Sue, but it was just out of the routine, basically. Yeah. The routine was to work at night and sleep during the day. I then did a teaching course in Derby, ended up teaching maths and IT at a secondary school in Barnsley. I retired early, not exactly having enjoyed teaching, and went on to do some teacher training at Huddersfield University. The people I worked for there were very, very happy to have someone on their team with very recent and up-to-date experience of the chalk face, basically. And we got on very, very well. The 2 guys, actually, that I worked with up there are both dead now, and they were both my age. So 1 in 3 that's still left.
Okay. And how long have you been retired for now?
Oh, now then. As a maths teacher, I should be able to work that out fairly quickly, shouldn't I? It's coming up to this summer, it'll be 23 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
So I retired when I was about your age.
Yeah. Yeah.
42.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting because Alan's family, Alan grew up in his family in a place very near to my maternal grandma, and my mum. They were in the next village, and eventually Alan went into that village. So we have a bit of a connection through the past, as it were. And I think you vaguely knew my mum, didn't you?
I didn't know your mum, but I still know someone who knew your dad, who came, he came up with a nurse. Was it Barry?
Yeah.
He knew Barry Sturck, who lived up, I can't remember what the street was called now. Not Green Lane.
My grandma lived in Spring Gardens.
Spring Gardens, that was it. Spring Gardens.
Yeah.
Which was just around the corner from where my parents lived when they retired from farming. Yeah. All a bit strange.
So tell us a little bit about lockdown, how it's been for you. Has it been difficult? Has there been ups and downs? What have been the benefits and the challenges?
There have been lots and lots of ups and downs. I was really, really not happy about it to start with. I thought, how am I going to cope with however long it takes, spending time on my own at home, with Sue working. I really didn't know how to do that, but I coped fairly well. I think I coped fairly well. I haven't gone off the rails. I'm not drinking an awful lot. But we've been out for walks. We've found places to walk that we never knew existed. How to get from here to Redbrook without basically crossing a road nearly. You know, it's been a time of learning, actually. And I think that Sue and I have probably talked more with each other during the last 10 or 11 weeks than we've done for a lot of years. I've spent a lot of time on the allotment. It's raining this morning.
I know.
After all this, it's brilliant. Don't knock it. We need it. The gardeners need it. Yeah. It's just not raining enough. We need about a week of it. We're not going to get that.
No, I do.
So I've spent a lot of time up there, and it's looking better now than it has been for years. But obviously, there's still a lot of work to do. You've never finished. But all through the lockdown, working on an allotment has been classed as daily exercise by the government. So it's been allowed. We can drive to the allotment, so carrying things backwards and forwards easier. My own gardens, I've started on it, but it still looks a bit of a tip. I just thank the scrap man that picked a few things up this morning, actually.
Yeah.
Sue's still working on the eye department. Outpatients up at Barnsley General. She obviously understands the 2 metre distancing rule, but the nurses obviously have to work very close with their patients. So that's been an obvious worry to her for her health. I mean, obviously they're masked up and they've got gloves and, you know, the pinnies, plastic, whatever, you know, they've got all that sort of stuff on. But it is a worry. And I'm also worried for her. The longer this goes on, but the fact that no one on the department has caught the virus, then the safer it seems as they go along. So I give thanks to God that she's still battling on virus-free. There are things that worry me. Shopping is a nightmare. There seems to be a lot of people ignoring distancing rules in supermarkets. But the smaller ones, the smaller corner shops and things seem to have got it sussed out, or maybe it's just a different set of customers that seem to understand that. With it being a smaller shop, they do tend to take more notice of that. I worry about the economy for the country and for the world in general, basically. There seem to be so many people at the moment who are not working, and I worry that there might be large-scale redundancies, not too far in the future. It also pains me to see the large number of deaths in the country. You know, we keep harping on about this and about whatever. Is it more than normal at this time of the year? Yes, it is a lot more than normal at this time of the year. And I know that there are a lot of scared people around, scared to go out, scared to go where there are other folks, who are perhaps not as careful with the distancing as they are. But I'm really grateful for all the people that have worked through this lockdown, all the delivery drivers, all the supermarket workers, the police, the other emergency service, obviously the NHS. But I think more with the police at the moment, because they're getting such mixed messages about what people are allowed to do. Things are changing all the time, and they've got to be really on the ball as to what rules they apply on any particular day, because they are changing all the time. You know, so.
Certainly concur with you in terms of a lot of what you're saying. It resonates a lot with me about concerns and worries, and maybe also what's helped you to cope. And in terms of a faith perspective, what has helped you to cope in these strange times in terms of your faith journey?
That took a lot of getting used to. Zoom, brilliant. YouTube, brilliant. And being able to contact them by FaceTime or by whatever means possible. It's been great to meet as a church still on a Sunday morning, even though usually we can't see anybody else, but we know they're there. Sue and I followed the online services put on by the Emmanuel people and prayed together, and we've sung along together to the songs. We've had a leadership team meeting, as you know, on Zoom. We've had a few of those on Zoom, and our house group has met twice. We are planning in the near future to have a proper house group where we do a Bible study and pray together. Whether that will come off or not, I don't know, but we're going to have a try, I think. The Sunday services are a real blessing, but the Zoom meetings are great too, because it means that we can keep in touch with other people and see them and just look at how people are changing over these weeks. I hope it doesn't go on for many years, otherwise we're going to be changing an awful lot. But the Sunday service is absolutely fantastic. We really appreciate all the work that goes into organising these services, because I know there's a lot, because, well, there is.
You've done it in the past.
I've done some worship leading in the past and organised services, yeah. And there is a lot of work goes into it, most definitely.
Good. So faith continues. We've had to adapt. We've learned new things, and maybe that's been a blessing. I know that you said right at the beginning of your life that you were taken to church and chapel and Sunday school. Then have you always been in the church, or did that change as your life developed?
When I went to university, initially, being in Leeds and being only sort of a 3/4 of an hour away from home, it was still home. Then I used to go back at weekends. We used to go to church. We used to meet up with my old pals and whatever. But as it got further through, I got a little bit more involved with, what shall we say, social life in Leeds. And I have to admit that I put the Christian faith on the back burner, as many students, I think, do once they leave home. It seemed to be that a lot less people involved in university were churchgoers than what they would have been back at home. I always believed there was a God, something or somebody who had made the universe to start with, and to some extent controlling it. But I only rarely attended church and didn't see myself as a Christian as such. Until, and this is sort of 30 years later, in 2006, my wife Sue dragged me along to Emmanuel Church for the Sunday evening service, our Sunday at 7 service. And we sat at the back, as you do if you are strange to a place. You wander in and sit as far away from everybody else as you can. I found out later that it was Mark Riesbeck's first Sunday at 7 service, and he talked about his time in Coventry, where he had just come from as a minister, and now he'd got some of the street lads playing football, and some of them had come to Christ through this football and through the social aspect of the football. And it was weird, actually, because he came and sat with us afterwards, Sue and I. And to this day, I don't know why, unless it was, as Joan was saying last week, it was a nudge from God to do so. It came out in conversation with him there and then that night that Mark was originally from Doncaster. I said that he didn't sound as though he was from Coventry, and he said, no, he was originally from Doncaster. And we went into, I said, whereabouts in Doncaster? Hexthorpe. Oh, did you know my sister? What was your name of your sister? Well, what's your name? I said, Allan Wearmouth. Oh, was your sister called Margaret? And he'd known her. She died in 1990 at 45 from cancer, but he'd known her. In fact, she'd been his Sunday school teacher at the chapel in Hexthorpe. So it was a real whammy, really, to me, that he knew and he'd grown up with, sort of thing, my sister. Anyway, I became a member of the Emmanuel Methodist Church the following year in 2007. And I've tried to become and I've tried to be the Christian that my sister was, that I knew my sister was. When she died, she knew where she was going. She had everything planned. She was going to Jesus.
Amazing. And your story is about God using people and incidences, not, I would never say coincidences, God incidences to bring you back.
That's right. And I still think today that it was Margaret that actually sent Mark to get me.
Brilliant.
And he got me.
Hopefully she's looking down upon you even now and celebrating where you are.
Hopefully, yeah.
And in the moments of your life when, because Christian faith is a bit up and down sometimes, in the hard moments since 2006-07, you know, what has kept you going in those times?
Well, I think there are always times, and there are always going to be events in your life that make you think about your faith and make you doubt whether you are on the right track or not. And I think that's when you need your church family to come to your assistance. And I've got a couple of good people at Emmanuel who I can call on, I can ring up whenever, and that's just brilliant. And they just put me right. They reassure me that I am on the right track, and away I go again. And that's when prayer is a real blessing, because I can pray about it. I can ask God to be with me, to give me a clue as to what direction I should be taking. And I believe that God always answers prayers, but not necessarily in the way that we would want him to. But he does answer them.
That's great. And my final question for you this morning, you know, if there was somebody you met who has not had a Christian experience, not being brought up, not gone to church, if you had to summarize for them what for you the heart of the Christian faith, the Christian message is to apply to them, what sort of things would you say? I'm only going to give you a minute.
It might not take me that long, because I think it's fairly simple. The Christian faith to me means that God loves me and he loves everybody else in the world. No matter what we've done, he loves us. He made us, he loves us. We can come to him with our own personal baggage, whatever we've done, whatever we carry in with us. He forgives us and brings us into his family. We move forward, basically, with a clean sheet. And in John 3:16, we read that, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish, but may have eternal life. And I believe that Jesus died for my sins. And I know that if I ask for forgiveness, then I will be forgiven. And that in theory is what it's all about.
I love the simplicity of how you've just put it, and I'm sure that speaks to our viewers, but also maybe those people who are watching this, maybe out of the blue, maybe as a coincidence, or maybe it's actually been a God incidence for them as they've heard you speak. So we're really grateful, and I'm really grateful, Allan, to you for sharing your heart with us this morning. We're glad that you're part of Emmanuel family, and thank you for bearing with me and communicating really effectively and simply what God means to you.
No worries. Thank you.
Great. Lovely to see everybody. I hope to see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.